Hello, New Zealand. Welcome to Straight Talk. This is our 54th episode, so you'd think we'd be starting to get better, so fingers crossed. Without further ado, I want to welcome you to the panel. Let's have a look at them, and they are the prettiest lot we could find in all of New Zealand. Of course, starting in Taupo with Christine Rankin. Where have you been all these months? Have you been working?
Look. No, I've been working. Yes, I've been working, and my husband's been ill, so I've been absent for a while, but I'm back.
Okay, well, you give Kim a big hug from us. And keeping up the standard is Ala Pomalele with eyes open and no toothpicks keeping your eyes open. Have you been getting better sleep at night, Ala?
I have been getting better sleep, but I've also been nauseous and in the throes of first trimester, so there's trade-offs. We're here though, so
that's like a little hint, eh? That's like if anybody's really bright, they will have picked up that number two's coming.
Yes, Joe and I are doing our bit to keep our birth rate alive.
I know, and the Family First team is just fantastic at keeping the fertility rate of New Zealand up there with the rest of the world. Bruce is doing nothing for the fertility rate. He's done his dash, but Bruce, nice to have you from Christchurch. I hear it was a beautiful sunny day down there. Is that correct?
It is correct. Yes, it was lovely.
Okay. And
I nearly took my shirt off.
Okay. Visuals. And below you is Rex Ardar, also Christchurch. You would have gone swimming in the sea when you were Rex? You're pretty tough.
No. I never swim in the sea. Too cold. No.
It's always, you like the chlorine in the pores of your skin, do you? Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love the smell of chlorine in the morning.
Okay. Coffee and chlorine. Tonight we discuss women's space as a thing of the past. I'll be interested to see what Christine and Ala have to say about that. Is the euthanasia law going to expand? Are preferred pronouns a big joke? And how old is too young to travel without your mummy and your daddy? And if we get time, which I doubt it, seeing who's on the panel, we might get to why can't kids talk England properly when they go to school? The video of the week, we're not going to talk about the United States this week at all. No US politics. But I do want to show you there's two people who are making a lot of money and a lot of fame at the moment, and they are people who just have an amazing ability to impersonate the two presidential candidates. And so this is the impersonation of Kamala Harris.
I'll be running for president of the United States. And we have states. And they're united. And because think about it. States should be united. And all the states now, well, they have a president to preside over them. Oh, that's good.
I just think she's got the cackle perfect. And then there is a guy who is just the best at impersonating Trump. The only difference is he doesn't look like Kamala like that lady did, but you close your eyes, you think you are listening to Trump, and he's full of the bluster and bravado going on about McDonald's. Have a watch.
I was great friends, got along very well with Ronald McDonald. They said it's Ron and Don. I recently brought back the $5 meal deal. I got on the phone with Ronald McDonald and I said, Ron, listen, just like I handled Abdul with Afghanistan, you know what I'm talking about. I said, Ron, if you don't bring back the $5 meal deal, we're going to drone your house. Look at your beautiful house. We're going to take it out and you're going to be in there. And he said, sir, we're bringing back the $5 meal deal because Kamalanomics has destroyed people's wallets. It's destroyed your bank account. And she says she worked at McDonald's, and a lot of people are saying that's fake news, but maybe she did, and maybe that's where she learned how to serve those big, beautiful word salads.
Okay, isn't that amazing? I mean, I think he just does incredibly well. And what they've done is the two of them have often been featured on programs where they've debated each other. And, you know, Trump's just full of himself and Kamala is just doing word salads. And it's just very, very funny. And you close your eyes and you think it's an actual debate. Our image is more serious, and it's the spokesperson for Labour, who is the used to be the Minister of Police, and she turned up on TV to say that police foot patrols had gone down. Now, One News actually showed that actually foot patrols have gone up over the last 3 years. And so this wonderful cartoon came out of how Ginny Anderson, the Labour police spokesman, figured out that it had actually gone down, and this was it. Yeah, she turned it on its side. So I just thought that was a lovely example of statistics. Right, let's get straight into our topics. And look, we have spoken about this one, but I do want to just touch on it because we do have two stroppy females on our panel. Not you, Bruce, and Rex. And it's about the Australian court 2 weeks ago. They ruled in a What is a Woman case that basically the woman on the right started an app for women only, a social media app. And the guy on the left who identifies as a woman came onto the app. The woman on the right said, you're not a woman. And so the court found that Roxanne Tickle on the left had not been directly discriminated against, but was a victim of indirect discrimination, whatever that means. Now, we will go to our Professor of Law shortly, Professor Emeritus Your Holiness Rex Ardar, to check exactly what the law says in this area. But I want to just come to you, Christine and Nala, first and just say, what is it going to take for this ridiculous attitude to the definition of woman to be gone? Because it's women that suffer. It's women who suffer, and it's men who want to go into women's changing rooms. It's men who want to go into women's sports. It seems like women are suffering. There's no woman who wants to go into a guy's toilet, and that's for a very, very good reason. And not many women want to play in guys' soccer teams. So what's going to turn this around? Christine, I'll come to you first. How's this going to be defeated, this madness?
Well, you asked the question earlier, are women going to rise up? No, I don't think they are. I think there is a lot of sympathy for people in this situation, and there are genuine people in this situation, and then there's just the absolute craziness that goes along with it, and that's the bit that's absolutely and utterly out of control. So I don't think anyone is going to rise up about it. Sport is about the only place that you're going to see true rebellion in this area. I think our world has gone so mad, not only with this, but with so many other things. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any mass of voice against it. It's out of control.
Okay, and to our viewers, please don't adjust your screen. It's me. It's wild weather in Taupo. What's actually wrong there, Christine? Is the house shaking?
No, it's me. I'm holding my. I'm in a different room because we've got guests, and I'm holding my.
You have guests. Amazing.
I think I'm a bit shaky. I think it must be, my hand must be shaking without me knowing it. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I just thought you'd been on the terp, so I'm actually quite pleased.
Oh, look, you just wanted to say that. I have been, yeah. Look, a whole bottle before I joined you.
Alla, how are we going to turn around the madness?
It's going to take both sexes, men and women, courageous men and women, to stand up and speak truth, obviously in love and grace, and to call out the constant lies that this cultural war in particular is perpetuating. I think this particular court case is really a step backwards for sex-based rights, and unfortunately, as Christine said, women play a large part of it, and I think that's just sort of a nature thing of women in terms of sympathising with people that are in this category. But there are also women who actually are defiant and are standing up for biological women, and we need more women like that to call out the lies, whether it's in their own families or communities. It all does contribute to the big picture, but we do need men, strong and courageous men, to continue to lead this fight and fight back, because women naturally follow men. Women are leaders. I've said this before. I think I've made known how I feel about women in leadership, but we need men also taking charge. To what you said earlier in terms of trans men, biological women not coming into men's spaces? Well, because naturally we all know that men are stronger in certain respects, and most certainly a man's bathroom is not a place for a woman. I don't know why men are fixed with coming into women's spaces. And you can tell that they are men, that they're biological men, because women naturally want to safeguard their privacy, their safety, and they think of those things in regards to others. And so the fact that we always constantly see headlines saying that it's trans women persisting to invade women's spaces reaffirms that they actually are by nature, biologically, physiologically, endocrinologically, all the logicallys, they are males. So their psyche is affirming it, and so we need women pushing back. It's unfortunate that it was a female prime minister that allowed gender identity to be part of this legislation that has led to this ruling. So we just need women to do better, maybe.
Yeah, we're not only physically strong, our smell is stronger as well, which is why women don't want to come into men's toilets. Rex,
Exactly.
you're the legal... You live with a man, that's how you know. Rex, you're the legal expert here. How does a court come to this decision where you've got... I mean, if I was a male judge, I would really struggle with this whole decision because I know its implications, but I guess you're going to tell us that it is the effect of the law. Is it appealable? What do you think?
Well, any judge is bound by the legislation, has to interpret or case law and the facts before him. Now, very briefly, the Sex Discrimination Act 1984, this is the Australian Commonwealth legislation, was amended in 2013 to include, as another prohibited ground of discrimination, gender identity. Okay, so that was a very important amendment, 2013, passed in Canberra. So once that was done, this opened up the possibility for these sorts of cases that have now come before, this court. And the judge more or less applied the law correctly, although as one of my Australian friends pointed out, he did skate over rather briefly a couple of defences. One of the defences is an affirmative action type defence where special measures taken by a woman to advance women's equality are permitted under the Act. And he didn't really give any attention to that at all. And the other one is indirect discrimination, which he found can be allowed if the discrimination is reasonable in the circumstances. So there were a couple of defences that the trial judge didn't really give perhaps enough weight to. And on appeal, if the lawyers do a good job, these defences will be stressed. It's quite possible the outcome will be reversed on appeal.
And you're saying it'll be reversed on that possibility that even though trans people have rights, which they're trying to recognise, women also have rights, and that their rights may be greater. Is that what you're saying?
No, not really. It's a rather crude attempt to paraphrase what I'm saying. But no, what I'm saying is that there is a defence under the Sex Discrimination Act which allows genuine special measures to advance women's equality to be permitted. And a Women's Only Act advances women's equality by giving them a forum in which they can discuss what they like to discuss without overbearing and bossy males interfering. So so there is a defence recognised under the Act. Now, you haven't asked me this, but I'm going to tell you the next thing. Could this case be decided the same way in New Zealand? The answer is no, probably, because with the 13 grounds of prohibited discrimination under our Human Rights Act, gender identity is not one of them. So we haven't expanded our Human Rights Act to include gender identity as one of the prohibited grounds of discrimination. So you can see that it's most unlikely a case would get anywhere in New Zealand just because our legislation is different.
Okay, that's interesting. I actually thought there was a case that had sort of set a precedent, or is that just what the Human Rights Commission just says? They've assumed it, and so tell everybody that it applies.
Well, I really don't follow their machinations any more than I'd read the Woman's Weekly, to be honest.
Yeah, well done. Right. Okay. Rex, just before I go on to Bruce, though, the Law Commission is doing a review into whether special protections should be there for non-binary and for transgender. So if the law was changed to include transgender and non-binary as having special protection, this case would go in Giggle's favour, wouldn't it? In favour of the transgender man.
Well, yeah, prima facie, as we always say, would probably go in Giggle's favour, unless, to repeat again, we also included a defence in the legislation to enable outfits like Giggle for Girls to have their women's only apps. So it's a lot of ifs there, you see.
Okay.
If they expand the legislation to gender identity, yeah, could happen.
Okay. Bruce?
Well, I don't know what I can add to that. To my simple mind, the law still seems to be an ass to me. And it recalls to me the saying, I think you probably might know it, those whom the gods want to destroy, they first make mad. It's probably a corruption of one old Sophocles play. Evil appears as good in the minds of those who the gods lead to destruction. And I think we're in such a befuddled state of mind now that it's very difficult to know which way to move forward. The politics of identity seem to be controlling us in a way that it's very often very difficult to break through. And we know we're in trouble when I came across an article yesterday in the Telegraph. We know we're in trouble when the British Red Cross comes up with so-called exclusive language, even more so, such as maiden names are no longer to be used, and terms, of course, like ladies and gentlemen, we should avoid. Employees should refer to people who have periods rather than solely referring to women. No one should be described as born. This is, by the way, what the Red Cross is giving out across England and Europe. No one should be described as born a man or a woman. Terms such as elderly, youngster, and pensioner should be avoided because they are ageist. And then there's this little gem. Avoid illegal immigration. Instead, use person experiencing migration. Now, imagine the Red Cross entering a war zone and asking the wounded what their pronouns are. I think this whole deal is a confidence trick of our century. It's a confidence of our time. I don't know how. Well, I do know how we got here, but nevertheless, it's just a pain. So here we are, naked and ashamed in our muddle and befuddlement. We try to pull ourselves up by our own imaginary fig leaves, just like Adam and Eve tried to do. So we haven't advanced at all very much, except that we're even more befuddled than our original parents were.
Okay, let's check some of the comments which have been pouring in. Rebecca says this is one of the reasons why men will never be a woman. They don't think like we do. No, that's true. Neil says Mr. Tickle is a bloke. Well, you could get in trouble for saying that one day. Rosie says a female space is just for women, not for men who think they're women. Fillies don't have willies. There we are. This is G-rated, by the way. Rebecca says our government has written a lot of this rubbish into law. Ethel says, good evening. Hello, Ethel. Ronald says, since men are not directly impacted with this bathroom disaster, we really cannot take the leadership here, but can stand staunchly with the women who choose to stand up for themselves. Fee says, I'm going to come to you in a minute, Christine, because I want to get your response to this. Fee says, why has such a tiny minority of people trans got such power of this narrative and even politicians back them? It's so whack. But this is the one I want you to respond to, Christine. Where are the feminists in all this gender identity rubbish? Not a peep from them. What the heck? Men bashing up women at the Olympics, you would think motivate them to stand up and fight. What would you say to Daryl, Christine?
Look, I think we've been conditioned for a long time not to speak out about much at all. And as I said before, I think women have a lot of sympathy for other people and they're really cautious about causing pain. I mean, there's more and more and more discussion and debate about that. You can't hurt anyone. No one can be hurt. No one can be offended. I look at what Bruce just read out. That's we had talked about this 20 years ago, we would have said it could never, never happen. But it has, and it is, and it's going to continue to happen. I don't think feminists feel strongly about this. I honestly don't. I think women in sport do. Absolutely. Beyond that, I never hear my contemporaries talking about it at all. Never.
No. Okay, just to encourage you, Christine, the African sheep, which is an interesting name on YouTube, says, great to see Christine on this evening. Oh, we agree.
Thank you so much.
And Christine says, that being the case, what Rex said, why not have the women's only website based in New Zealand and let that tickle bloke try to get a successful case here? Actually, is that an out, Rex? I mean, is that actually a legitimate option for Sal Grover to bring her app and make it New Zealand based?
I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Because there is a case, a trans corrections officer is actually in the middle of a case right now in the Human Rights Review Tribunal because his experience of discrimination, harassment and bullying at work, including being misgendered and having a lack of clarity around his duties due to his gender identity. I assume if the spin-off is saying his gender identity, that means probably a biological woman. So there are cases trying to chip their way into New Zealand. I don't think we're safe from this agenda, are we, Rex?
Well, I'm surprised that case has got that far to the Human Rights Review Tribunal, but as I've already explained, it is not unlawful to discriminate on the basis of someone's gender identity.
Right. At the moment?
No.
No. Okay. Shall we put a bet on, what do you reckon, a month, 2 months, 6 months?
Won't be long. Watch this space.
Okay, let's move on to the... Oh, go on.
No.
You rest your case, Rex? Okay. Let's move on to the next topic. Should New Zealand make changes to its assisted dying law? There is a review happening. Now, you probably heard about this petition because this petition turned up. It only had 3,000 signatures, but because the media's on a campaign to expand the law, they reported this one. They didn't report the 23,000 signature petition that we presented, calling on women to be defined as adult human female. Go figure. But anyway, the petition has been presented and it calls on some adjustments to the law. Now, just one interesting quote that has come out is David Seymour, who said, the assisted suicide review is being done by the Ministry of Health right now. I believe, without preempting what it will say, yeah, right, that it will give a lot of weight to making change. Now, this is the Associate Minister of Health basically implying that there will be change, which is pretty dodgy at the best of times. But these are the changes, just before I come to you, panel, this is some of the changes they've suggested. They want to expand so basically you don't have to be terminal, and so you're not limited to 6 months. They want to get rid of the gag clause so that the doctor can say, have you considered assisted suicide, euthanasia, killing yourself? Thirdly, they are possibly going to force medical professionals that they have to refer people to euthanasia even if they don't want to do it themselves. And fourthly, that hospices and faith-run facilities may have to allow euthanasia even if they don't perform it themselves. So that's a pretty slippery slope. Christine, I did warn you that I was going to come to you first on this because many people may not know, but you are a CEO of a wonderful hospice doing a fantastic job. So what's your response to this? Do you think the law needs widening? Is there any in that list that concern you being at the front of this whole issue?
Yeah, look, I can't speak on behalf of my hospice or any hospice because I'm not allowed to do that, but I can give you my opinion. I think that there could be some tiny changes, but we've got to be very, very, very careful. Like, it sounds terrible when you look at a change being that Like at the moment, a medical professional can't raise it or speak with someone about it. They have to refer them on to people who have agreed to be part of the system. But the reality is, some people are going through a really tough time. And if you're, say, a hospice nurse was able to talk to someone about why they felt the need to do this, you can fix the problem. You might not be able to fix it long term, but you can alleviate pain and you can help people through really tough times when at the moment we're not allowed to have any discussion with them at all. You hand them a card and you tell them where to go to find the information. And I think that's quite dangerous. Most medical professionals I know want nothing to do with euthanasia at all. They take an oath to prolong life, and that's what they still do, and that's what they want to continue to do. I have a different view probably than most of you, because I know that people die disgusting deaths in New Zealand. It shouldn't happen, but it does. There are some things that cannot be avoided, and I think when a person, look, you'd have to see it to understand how terrible it is. I understand that choice. I absolutely understand it. And I don't think that because we have particular religious beliefs, we have the right to tell someone who doesn't have those religious beliefs that they can't do it. However, the law has to be protective. And at the moment, it is, and a lot of people who go seeking information about assisted dying or assisted suicide never ever go through with it. In fact, the numbers that do go through with it are relatively low compared with those who inquire about it. So, yeah, I think some little changes, but some of those changes on that list are very frightening.
Okay, Bruce, what do you think?
Well, I can't go into the detail like Christina's just gone into, but I thought as she was talking there, why do we have hospices anyway? That tends to suggest that you can have some kind of assistance, some kind of help for people who are dying. And it occurred to me that we often confuse compassion with pity. Now, pity is an emotion, and compassion is a virtue. And the aim of pity is to eliminate suffering as quickly as possible, because we don't like it and so we want to get rid of it. It's a kind of utilitarian response to suffering. And while pity is a human emotion, it's crucial that we understand its limitations and we don't let it cloud our judgment. The idea of euthanasia, Greek for a good death, has always been a smarmy euphemism. And it undercuts, short circuits human compassion. And after all, compassion is one of the consequences of love. And like all the consequences of love, it's expensive because you share in the pain of someone, which I imagine what happens in hospital. Well, I know what happens in hospitals because I've been there and seen it. And compassion knows that perfect love casts out fear. Now, if that sounds too esoteric, nevertheless, it's true. One's own fear and the fear of the one who is suffering. You go together and you operate alongside each other. The biggest problem with pity is that it short-circuits love. And compassion enriches love and gives us experiences that pity won't allow us to have or makes it difficult to have. I'm not entering into any kind of condemnation of the bill because it's complicated. But nevertheless, underpinning all that, the conflation of pity with compassion is a real problem in our understanding of euthanasia.
Okay, Rex, you actually wrote a report for us back in 2014 on the pros and cons of euthanasia. Has your opinion changed?
No, it changes not. Not like the fickle winds of ACT MPs. Mind you, their opinion hasn't changed either. They're adamant they want it expanded.
Yeah.
Now, I just looking at something, there was a report came out in Canada, and since 2016, when the Supreme Court of Canada made voluntary euthanasia lawful, there's been a 13-fold increase in the rate of euthanasia in Canada in that short period. And I haven't bothered going around other jurisdictions, but this is not unusual. And what we see taking place is, as we predicted, you get the first version in, which is very restrictive, and then you gradually work a way to expand the criteria, concept creep or bracket creep, to change it from terminal illness to non-terminal illness, to change the time frames, change the ages of those who can get it. Many different ways you can expand it on many different bases. So, that will occur. So, has to be resisted, in my opinion. But
okay, Ala?
I'm not sure what else to add to what's already been said. I think just maybe to build on Rex's case about Canada. Canada, some of the things that is currently being proposed for our New Zealand laws to include in the new changes, Canada has already included, and that's probably part of the 13-fold rise, and also assisted dying, or what they call MAID, medical assisted dying, is the 5th leading cause of death in Canada. The intention was for euthanasia or assisted medical dying was to be a rarity, but it now has become a routine way of dying. And so I think for me personally, that's probably a fear with some of the changes that they're trying to subtly bring in. I think it's a sad state of affairs for our nation if assisted suicide or medical assisted dying is the only option that we encourage people to take. And I guess for myself, it's kind of outside of my world, because in our sort of Pacific communities, we, as Bruce said, we carry, love carries caring for those that are on the other end of life, whether it's elderly or terminal illness, and families. And that's probably a large reason why we don't have a lot of hospices in the Pacific region, because families carry that, not burden, but they carry that duty right to the end, and they do their best to make sure that it's a dignified way of dying as well. So I always kind of wonder if that's something that New Zealand could do more of, as opposed to just sort of seeking the easiest option out for a loved one.
I honestly think that you all are very well-meaning. You don't live this life. It's not about pity versus compassion. I can tell you that the people I work with have compassion, and they do every single thing they can to help those people to live their life as best they can. It's got nothing to do, we do it all at home. We don't have any inpatients where I am, and it has absolutely nothing to do with pity. You haven't seen some of the deaths that there are that not one medical practitioner in New Zealand can do a single thing about. And I bet if it was someone you loved, you might feel completely different, because you cannot alleviate it. And I think this is all very nice, and it's all very nice to have these theories. You live it. You live it and see someone screaming for days in pain, and just see how you feel about it then. I'm sorry, all very nice, but you're not facing the reality. You haven't seen the reality of the people I'm talking about. So, yes, you can have, if you're okay, you can have a okay death. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nice death is quite rare, although there are plenty of people, when I say that have gentle deaths. But there are people who have utter horror that goes on and on and on and on. And I think your theory is one thing, the reality of it is something completely different. I'm sorry, but I feel really strongly about that. And I want to be really clear that I do not agree with that list of things on there. But there are some tiny changes that could be made that could make a difference for some people who could get help other than assisted suicide.
Okay, so, that's a very good question, Christine, because I was going to say to you, that may be true that people are dying in pain, but as part of the problem is that our palliative care system sucks because the government actually doesn't fully fund it, which I cannot figure out for the life of me. I mean, just before I ask you that, the latest euthanasia report just came out, and I actually just stumbled across it this afternoon. The media hasn't seemed to cover it, but I just want to quote a couple of things out of this. The first thing is that it's actually white people that love euthanasia, and 83% of all euthanasia is done by white people, virtually no Pacifica, and about 3% of Māori. The other thing that I noticed is that of the people who used euthanasia, 1 in 4 were not receiving palliative care. Now, to me, that simply says, well, why not? Can't they access it, and can't they afford it? And
No,
the other
there's no
thing,
charge. No. Hospice is 100% free. Only a very small percentage is provided by the government, and we raise the rest of the money. Everything. We do everything you can think of for those patients. I mean, we've extended it out here to a level that I think our community gets the most magnificent service, and that's going to continue to grow. Governments don't want to admit you die. They have this little circle, and it's you're born well, you grow well, you mature well, and then you just disappear. Hopefully you're cremated, so there's no evidence left that you actually died, because they never talk about death. You know, it's not on the circle of life that the Department of Health or Waka Kotahi actually... And it's not them. It's not them.
Whatuora.
Whatuora. That's the one.
Yeah, having a little mental blank about them. But there is no talk about dying. And palliative care is available to anybody who wants it. Some people are scared of it because it means they're going to die. And because we don't handle death well in New Zealand, and Pacifica and Maori do, but the rest of us don't, people don't want to come and get palliative care because they think it means they're going to die. We do everything to keep them alive for as long as they can possibly be alive.
But you've just raised an interesting point, Christine, in what you just said then. You said that Māori and Pacifica die well, but...
No, I didn't say they die well.
They view death differently.
Differently.
Yeah,
okay, so what is the difference?
Because it's a values base, because the values are different. For our communities, our values are still driven by Christian values. And so for the believer, death on this side of eternity or earth side is not the final outcome for us. And so for a lot of our communities, death is welcome because we know that there is an eternity that awaits us. We preach the gospel this is why we preach the gospel to our family and friends, because it matters where you go after death. And that drives a lot of how we care for people. So we need to talk about that. That is a major difference. It isn't ethnic based, it's values based. And for a lot of our Western nations, this is the price that you pay when you go away from a society that loves God and lives by his values and what he preaches. So this is just...
I think that's true of Pacifica. I don't think that is true of Maori in the same way. There aren't the numbers of Christians in Maoridom at all. It's the way they look after their family and the way they look at death being a natural part of life. And that is what we talk about too. Death is a perfectly natural part of life. It happens to everyone, and we do try and make it as natural as it possibly can be. But Pacifica and Maori, I've got a much better attitude to it. They talk about it. It's a family thing. Like when you see, because we don't have many Pacifica here in Taupo, but we have a lot of Maori, and the whole family moves in. There's singing and food and prayer and music, and it's a completely different reaction than a lot of other people have. We've got a lot to learn from the way they manage it. I really believe that.
Okay, so isn't that the solution, Christine, rather than to say, well, we'll help you die because it's...
But some of those people in terrible circumstances also choose the end of life that you don't agree with. They do choose that. It's not huge numbers, but they do if it's really bad. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hell of a dilemma. And I think until you've experienced the worst of it, I just think there needs to be something there for people who don't believe what we believe. I don't want some religion coming along and telling me how to live my life and what I believe in and the way I should be. So I don't expect to do that to someone else. You do that by influencing them in the way you live your life. That's what I believe. So, yeah, I don't think we can say it for everybody, but nor do I think that extending it is the right thing to do. It is frightening.
Okay, Bruce, I'll come to you. Just one other stat that I thought was really significant in the report that I unearthed today was that just 1% of people who had assisted suicide in the last 2 years, 1% had had a psychiatric assessment to check that they had the competence to make the decision. And also they'd be checking for coercion. You know, I can't afford this, or my family, I'm a burden on my family, that type of thing. That really worried me. Bruce, you got any response?
Maybe I didn't make myself clear. What I was saying, I wasn't talking about what was going on in hospitals or in hospices. when I was talking about the conflation between compassion and pity. It's the conflation between compassion and pity that drives the law. It's the law that operates out of that utilitarian response to human life. And that's what Ala was talking about. When you collapse into utilitarianism, then you have to have a response that really doesn't come to terms with compassion. And so the law is, well, it becomes really, from my perspective, rather uncaring and cruel.
Okay, and Rex, you got anything to add?
I think the idea of religion interfering puts it the wrong way. This legislation is a request to have the state or a state-appointed quack come in and execute you. So you're asking a state-approved official to come and snuff you out. It's nothing to stop you doing it yourself. And if you had enough bottle, you would do it yourself. But you're asking for the state and a legally approved mechanism to do it. Nothing to do with religion.
A lot of people who are sick do it themselves. When they can't cope with any more, they do it themselves. They do.
Yeah. Christine, just finally, I don't want to, I mean, this is a big issue. And look, we have a law, the country voted for it and it came in, but it's quite clear that ACT and advocates want to expand it. Just in terms of that list there, are there any there, just from your frontline experience, that you think are fair?
No, I don't like the one allowing medical and health professions to raise the topic, but at the moment we don't discuss the topic.
Actually, Christine, I'm not sure that that's correct. My understanding is that a medical professional cannot raise it, cannot say, well, why don't you kill yourself? Or why don't you have euthanasia so we can kill you now? But if the patient raises it, that immediately gives the medical professional the chance to have the discussion. The gag clause is not that you can't talk about it, it's that you can't raise it because of the power of, I mean, we all know when the doctor gives us a diagnosis, we give great power to that statement, don't we? We walk out of the doctor's office thinking either we're stuffed or we're actually going to do quite well.
Yeah, and I really experience it with nurses who work in hospice because we don't raise it. We don't.
Okay, so maybe that's a hospice policy, is it?
Well, no. Every hospice makes their own policy. So we have governing. No, we have a body, a national body that is like a union, really, and advocates on our behalf. And they have principles, but we don't have to follow those. But we're very clear about how we feel about euthanasia. At the moment, it is very clear. I think there's only one hospice in New Zealand that feels differently about it.
Yeah, just down the road from me, unfortunately.
Right.
Rex, you know the law a little bit, probably more than some of us.
Section 11 of the End of Life Choice Act is the one that's relevant. Yeah. And it makes the point. Yeah, I haven't got the exact wording, but the gist of it is the doctor or the health practitioner can't raise or initiate the conversation, can't suggest it. So it can't come from the doctor. It doesn't say that if the question comes from the patient, they can't discuss it. It just says they can't initiate it.
Yeah. Yeah. A person who wishes to exercise the option of receiving assisted dying must inform the attending medical practitioner of their wish. The attending medical practitioner must give the person the information, the prognosis, the irreversible nature of assisted dying, the impacts of assisted dying. I think probably most people know that. But I think it's just about starting it. But Christine, you may have raised a sort of a policy issue that a lot of hospices think that's not the place where it should happen. Look, heavy topic. Let's just quickly get some comments because it has been all go here, as you can imagine. Trina says, my mother, 83, lives in Australia. Her doctor recently gave her documents regarding end-of-life options unsolicited. Matt says, we already have a suicide problem. Now we're encouraging it. Bruce states the bleeding obvious and sees your camera's wobbly, Christine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rosie says, a friend's brother was diagnosed with neuron disease, multiple
motor neuron disease.
Yeah, motor neuron. Thank you. And his family were not given the option of euthanasia. His family had to watch him die slowly. He wasn't going to recover. Stacey says Christians choose to die this way too. Don't think they don't. Been through it recently. Daryl says Act's obsession with death and expanding, loosening up euthanasia laws are dreadful. Do they know what palliative care is and the great job hospices do caring for those vulnerable at the end of their earthly lives? Neil says food for thought from all on euthanasia, especially from Christine. Correct. Charmaine says the spiritual matter is never considered in the euthanasia bill. And Lily says if New Zealand laws were changed to be like Canada and Netherlands, how many people per year would die a terrible death and how many people would die because they feel pressured? I think, Susie says, great discussion on a highly emotive topic panel. And I think that's good. Got to have these discussions, and that's what Straight Talk's all about. Let's lighten it up slightly, and let's just have a pop quiz. The cost for parking in a disabled car park seems very, it's kind of a very different topic, isn't it? But anyway, we're just going to do a different topic. Parking in a disabled car park, Bruce, will cost you no longer $150, no matter how much you pretend to have a limp leg. It's going to cost you $750 as a fine. Bruce, have you ever parked in a disabled car park when you're not disabled?
Well, once in my life, I can be honest, say, no, I haven't.
You've never done it?
In a disabled car park.
Wow. What a saint. Rex?
Well, I never have, but I think a five-fold increase isn't really justified, $750, but if it's a way for the government to claw some more money out of the citizens.
Revenue gathering. This one, Christine, this one is close to me because my father-in-law, Tina's dad, has one of these special car park cards. So I pick him up deliberately so I can park in that car park. But I have to buy him a coffee as part of the thank you. But I tell you what, when you have, as you've said on the previous topic, Christine, when you know someone who needs that car park, you're actually a lot more sensitive to the fact when some mongrel parks in it who doesn't have a disability. So anyway, fess up, Christine. Have you ever parked in a disabled car park?
I actually have not, but someone who drove me once when I was notorious 25 years ago did when they were taking me somewhere, and I asked them not to. This was in Christchurch, and he ignored me, and he stayed on there while I went to a meeting. And, of course, I was all over the news for parking in a disabled car park. It wasn't really me. I've never forgotten it. It was dreadful. But, I honestly want to say to you, I'm on the council in Taupo, there just are not enough disabled car parks, no matter how many you extend. And we have a policy where as long as you've got a disabled sticker, you can park on any car park for double the time.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Okay.
You can with your father-in-law's park. You in Taupo.
Yeah.
You could have a lovely parking time here. But look, it is pretty tough for people who struggle, Bob. So you shouldn't be so naughty as to take your father-in-law out just so you can park wherever you like.
And finally, Saint Allah, have you ever parked in a disabled car park?
No, and I like the fine increase. I'm so over people, inconsiderate people, and I think also being a new mum and people parking in parks with prams for children, that grinds me the most. They should bring fines in for that. But no, I like the fine increase. I don't care if it's revenue gathering. People need to just abide by the rules. It's simple.
Yeah. Okay, TVNZ has posted an $85 million loss, $39 million drop in revenue. Should the government sell it? Do we need a state-owned broadcaster, Bruce?
No, we don't. No. Need a state-owned broadcaster.
Thanks. Excellent answer, Bruce. Top of the class. Rex?
I wouldn't sell it. I'd give it one last chance to turn itself around with the new board and new direction.
Yeah. Okay. You're so forgiving. Christine, you've been in charge of a state-owned enterprise. Wins. What do you think? Should we sell TVNZ?
Sell it. Absolutely sell it. It's just a left-wing machine that just keeps on spitting it out day after day. I don't watch anymore. Never watch morning television. Couldn't bear it. What a way to start your day. No, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Alla?
Yeah, say bye-bye.
The answer to this one. Oh, I got to love that grace from Allah. Okay, and just leading into our next topic, what country outside of New Zealand would you let your 15-year-old visit? So if you were sending your 15-year-old off for a holiday with some friends, what country outside of New Zealand would you let your 15-year-old visit? Bruce, you're going to say France, aren't you?
No, not at the moment. Oh, well, it depends where it was. Look, it's a matter of organisation and preparation. It's very difficult. There are a lot of countries, obviously, you wouldn't go to. But I did have a 16-year-old grandson, went to Australia all by himself and didn't get into any trouble, and he organised himself. So it's a matter of preparation, I think, and organisation.
Okay, Rex, what's the safest country?
Well, I wouldn't send a 15-year-old to any country by themselves. I wouldn't send a 15-year-old girl to any country by themselves either. So,
okay, Allah, what are you going to say, Tonga or Samoa?
That's right, because we've got eyes everywhere there, so
Relatives.
that's safe without knowing it.
Okay, that's your choice. Christine?
Well, my 19-year-old grandson has been accepted into the third most prestigious university in the world in France and has gone off there on his own at 19, which has worried me a little bit. And I try not to worry about him. He's a very capable young man. But if it was a 15-year-old, my eldest son is 51. 51 years ago, I could have let him go anywhere when he was 15. He'd come home in a perfect state. The second one, I couldn't have allowed out the gate, because the same thing wouldn't have happened. It depends on the child, and then in this day and age, I wouldn't let them go anywhere.
Okay,
but 50
well,
years ago, it was a different world.
You have just segued us into, I'm just jumping a topic, Gordon, to the travelling. There's a British TV personality, Kirsty Allsop, and she's from that British program that my wife watches all the time. It's about houses, selling houses. What's it called? Location. Painful.
Yes.
Anyway, she she was thrilled when her 15-year-old returned from a 3-week European train trip with his friend. She posted about it on social media. She said, "My little boy has returned from 3 weeks interrailing. He will be 16 on Wednesday, so he's only 15. He went with a mate who's already 16 due to hostile travel restrictions. They organised the whole thing: Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, Berlin, Munich, Marseille, Toulouse, Barcelona, and Madrid." Is 15, how young? No, what did I put as a title, Gordon? How old is too young to travel? We'll start with the youngest panellist. Ala, what's the youngest?
I don't
15?
think 15 is young. I think it just depends on the child and the parenting. I would have been capable of travelling on my own at 15, but I'm also the
Would you?
oldest. Yep. Yes. Contrary to what
You
you
were the
think.
oldest.
I am. So I think it depends. Depends on the child and the location. But, I mean, that's pretty amazing for two 16-year-olds to organise themselves around Europe. And also it's different for different cultures. Like, that seems to be an age of maturity for some cultures, and that they're ready for that. So,
Yeah.
and also we've got we have a generation of lawnmower parents who are risk averse. They want to just get rid of basically every germ in the way of their child's growth, which is unrealistic. Germs are good for strengthening your immune system and also risk and a bit of danger. So
Right.
Obviously there needs to be a balance, but I do know that we are looking at a generation who is the product of parenting, helicopter parenting. And I saw it when I was at university, and it just did my head in. Like, we're talking about 18-year-olds who don't know what a washing machine is or know what a dryer is and would confuse the two. So there needs to be a bit of give and take. So
Yeah.
but
Preach
also
it.
I'm a first-time parent, so I'm learning.
Round to our house. Yeah, you've been round to our house. Is that Samuel? I can hear screaming hanging off the chandelier just to your right. Okay,
You'll be fine.
Rex.
You'll be fine.
Rex, what age do you reckon?
Well, 15's too young. I think I already said that. Unless they're 15 as big and ugly as Brody Retallick was at 15. But, but otherwise, common sense, you wouldn't send a 15-year-old going through Europe who's accompanied by a 16-year-old.
Yeah. Okay. And Bruce?
So I can't get too excited about this, although I'm on Ella's side. I think what she was saying made great sense to me. I don't know
What did she say?
She said
Great things, Bob.
Great. Hit him tomorrow.
it's a matter of organisation and preparation, and we do overprotect our children. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Yeah. It's become a situation where, although just as we ride into that, we're so busy protecting their bodies, we're too hot in protecting their minds. That's one of the problems.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was one of the interesting things, is that Kirsty, there was this massive furor, and so she responded. And one of the things is that she's been reading Jonathan Haidt's book, who spoke at our forum on the anxious generation and how we've, basically created these cotton wool kids. Christine, did you give your grandson a lecture? Were you panicking as he went through the departure gate? Yeah, and he was what, 19?
Stay with me for a week. I gave him advice on everything you could possibly think of until he begged me not to give him any more. But you got to remember, boys went to war at 16, not
someone just said that.
Long ago.
Or 15.
Not that long ago. And the fact that the law came knocking on Kirsty Alsop's door about her son travelling at 15, but children are battered and beaten and murdered and sexually abused, and no one knocks on their door here or anywhere else, I found absolutely appalling. I really, we let all that happen, but we go, oh my God, they can't travel when they're 15. And she got into trouble for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I really think we need to get real, especially in this country where the abuse rate is so very high.
Yeah.
Actually, that's an interesting question, Christine. I just wanted to ask you, that horrific case that just came out of, was it Hamilton, where an 8-year-old boy was murdered in what seems to be family violence? Do you put that in the category of child abuse, or is that different?
No, that's child abuse. Of course it's child abuse, and that won't be the first thing that happened. I mean, Bob, you've been involved with me on child abuse for many, many years. Child abuse is not a one-off situation. They are tortured for a long time before they die. And they see appalling things, and appalling things are done to them, and we don't go knocking on doors. In fact, we try to protect them and make excuses for the parents who do it, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Look at that. We got.
I know I won't be allowed back again, of course.
Oh, no, you'll be allowed back. That was awesome, Christine. I'm getting all these comments saying that was a great discussion. They love a little bit of fisticuffs on Straight Talk. There's nothing worse than when we all agree. When my wife and I agree all the time, it just becomes boring, so I deliberately disagree.
She's always right, though.
Lynette says, love location. Come on. Carolyn says, I am surprised he was able to leave the country on his own. Why did the border officers allow him to leave England unaccompanied? Well, he was with a 16-year-old, so I think that's how he got out the gate. But as Christine said, the Child Protection Services did contact Kirsty after she tweeted. Sean says, definitely depends on the child and the way they have been raised. Stella's back to the car parks. One of my daughters broke her leg. It took a couple of weeks before our temporary disabled parking permit arrived. We needed the extra room on the passenger side to get her into a wheelchair while we were out, as she couldn't use crutches. So any fines need to take into account these situations where people need the permit but haven't received one yet. Craig backs up what you said, Bruce, was it? Or Rex, 15-year-olds went to war.
15.
Yeah. Was it 15 or 16? They went to the war. I wasn't that old. Bruce?
Some of them pretended to be 16.
He was underage.
15 is underage.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, 16-year-olds went.
But there were some that sneaked in. They lied about their age, didn't they?
Yeah, it was 18 was the...
Yeah. Yeah. And there were others, Manchester United supporters who are hiding behind the couch, didn't want to go. And Carolyn says, as a mother of a child with high-functioning autism, I would not allow my 15-year-old to travel on his own at 15, as emotionally he is 2 to 3 years younger. It's not based solely on age, but on competency, which I think is a very good way to sum it up. Okay, team, we are out of time. That was a lot of fun, and Christine, we definitely want you back because that, it's just so lively. Although I am going to send you down a stand. I'm going to find one in the studio and I'm going to send it to you.
Stand. I couldn't make it work here. I've got the stand. You sent it to me. It just wouldn't work where I am.
Okay, well, could you tell your guests to not come on a Monday night at 8 o'clock and to be a bit more considerate?
I'll ban them on a Monday.
Ala, take it easy. Number 2 on the way, so that's very exciting news. Just if anybody didn't catch that, number 2's on the way, rocking through the fertility rate for Family First. Rex, thank you for your time and your legal prowess. And Bruce, always lovely to have you on. And thank you for watching, and we will be back next week at 8 o'clock. Until then, you have a great week.
Yeah.